everyone. Today I thought it would be fun to go through this book on Egyptology. I've had this for a very long time, since I was in high school. I don't think I've ever read it all the way through, so this would be fun. So I hope you enjoy this video. This is supposed to be an adventure from the Journal of Miss Emily Lands, November 1926. I believe she was a real person, but I'm not sure that they actually have her journal. Members of the expedition: Dugald A. Steer, a writer, Neum Ta expedition, Ian Andrew, Droughtsman, Nick Harris, artist, Helen Ward, artist. This is a sketch of Ramses II. There's museum meetings. She met or was invited to a lecture given by Howard Carter, who's the one who discovered Tutankhamun's tomb. It's a very interactive book. Dear Sir or Madam, further to our telephone conversation, please find enclosed with this letter the Egyptian book we discussed. As I mentioned, it is the journal of my great-aunt, Miss Emily Sands, who was a keen amateur Egyptologist. I think you will agree that it has a unique and unusual history. In 1926, 4 years after the discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun, a group of Egyptologists led by my great-aunt set out across Egypt, armed with a papyrus text of almost unimaginable antiquity. This papyrus had been brought to England sometime in the early 18th century and then found its way into the possession of the Farncombe family. I remember reading somewhere that there was a speculation that this precious manuscript described the actual location of the lost tomb of Osiris, that in fact the whole legend of the god Osiris, his enmity with his brother Seth, his eventual murder, and his secret burial by his wife Isis were perhaps folk memories of a real king of Egypt who lived during the earliest period of Egyptian civilization. The reason for this speculation was that the image on the papyrus showed Isis granting eternal life to her husband in a most unusual fashion on one side, while mentioning that Osiris was in the Holy Mound on the other. This holy mound has on occasion been associated with the island of Biga near Aswan. It appears that my great-aunt, being a good friend of the then Lady Farncombe, was shown the text, whereupon she persuaded her friend to mount an expedition to seek out the lost tomb. The expedition went ahead in November 1926, but after several progress reports, my great-aunt and her companions vanished into the desert, never to be heard of again. Oh. I had almost forgotten the stories of my great-aunt and her strange disappearance until May 1994, when I received a packet of papers and notebooks that had been forwarded from Patsy's Hotel in Cairo. Apparently they had arrived by post from Aswan, and then it had lain forgotten in a storeroom for nearly 80 years. I was shocked to see that the papers were in my great-aunt's handwriting. It was assumed that she had been attacked by bandits or had perhaps gone for an ill-advised swim in the crocodile-infested Nile. But I had always found these rumors difficult to believe. The official police inquiry at the time revealed few clues, and a series of private investigators hired by Lady Farncombe failed to shed further light on the matter. As I read through my great-aunt's journal, I became more and more convinced that she had indeed discovered something of tremendous importance. There were certainly rumors in the papers at the time to that effect, and some so-called mystics even claimed that she had died as a result of a mummy curse, very similar to the one that was said to have killed some of the discoverers of Tutankhamun's tomb. But while it was true that my great-aunt's pet cat, Hathor Ray, did suddenly die far away in England at around the same time as her disappearance, coincidences like this happen all the time, so I thought nothing more of it, especially as Hathor Ray was 18 years old. I have since pondered the manuscript on many occasions, hoping it might shed some light on what happened to my great-aunt. But since moving to America to be closer to my daughters, I have had less time on my hands. I therefore offer it to you for publication, in the hope that perhaps it will reach someone who may be able to investigate my great-aunt's disappearance. At the very least, a facsimile of the book might make a fascinating read, as I am aware that much of the journal is somewhat of variance with acceptance theories about the early history of Egypt. If you are not interested in publishing the journal, please take the trouble to return it to me. Joanna Sutherland. So that's like the intro to what this is. It's supposed to be like a collection of her things and kind of like a journal. So Cyrus, the purpose of our expedition is to find his lost tomb. Cleopatra, copied from a relief. So this is the first page, Arrival at Cairo. Yesterday I had my first glimpse of the pyramids on the train to Cairo, potent symbols of the mysterious land of Egypt. They reminded me of all that I have come to discover, the dusty tombs, the ornate temples, the golden treasures, and the strange unearthly mummies. But I have also come to find something more, for I have with me an old papyrus belonging to the Farncombe family, which some believe contains a clue about the location of the tomb of Osiris. It is my aim to find this tomb and reveal its treasures to the whole world. This is the Farncombe papyrus. So Cyrus. Cool. 2 lines on the left read, Isis, Lady of Heaven, Mistress of the Gods, she grants that you may live forever in eternity. On the right, Osiris, the great god, foremost in the west, Lord of Osiris, who is in the holy mound. This is a sailing barge that she hired. It comes complete with its own captain and crew and is called the Bennu Bird. Went to the Egyptian Museum. As Cairo has the very best collection of Egyptian antiquities anywhere in the world, I went to the museum to learn about the history of ancient Egypt and the pharaohs. Although I have hired the services of Mr. Tok, a much-traveled interpreter, or dragoman, the museum's curators spoke either French or English, and that was very helpful. Bracelet of Queen Ahotep. At the museum, I asked one curator if he had heard the story of the lost tomb of Osiris hidden in a holy mound. He laughed and said it all sounded like nonsense. But when I showed him the papyrus, he asked us where exactly we had got it, as if it looked authentic. The origin of the expedition. In the wake of the magnificent discoveries recently made here in Egypt by Howard Carter, I was struck with a sudden passion for all things Egyptological. Being a friend of the Farncombe family, I had heard of their old papyrus and asked Lady Amanda Farncombe if I could take a look at it. As I examined it, she told me how one well-known Egyptologist had suggested it might just hold a clue to the lost tomb of Osiris. That same day, the subject of an expedition was raised, which Amanda generously offered to fund herself. She and her husband have even come to Cairo to bid us farewell and bon voyage. Here's like a kind of a history on Egypt. The Archaic period, the Old Kingdom, Middle New Kingdom, late period, Greco-Roman period. Here's talking about Isis and how she's found his scattered parts. Here's Osiris, Horus, and Set. And we've talked about all those ones. The ancient Egyptians believed but before the time of the human pharaohs, which is usually said to begin with the reign of King Menes, there was a period known as the reign of the gods. Lists showing the gods who reigned during this time include Palermo stone, the Turin papyrus, and the writings of 3rd century BC Egyptian priests called Manetho. Although he wrote in Greek, his lists names in the order of which the gods ruled from Ta to Re through Shu, Geb, Osiris, Set, and Horus. Could this list record the reigns of real pharaohs? And do the tombs of these kings still await discovery? Don't get burned when you buy a hat. It's like an ad. The temperatures. I actually have Egypt on my weather app on my phone, and I check it all the time. I don't know why. This doesn't seem that bad, This one over here. It's hotter. And the distances. And here's a map of Egypt. Some landmarks here. Then there's the crowns of Egypt. Here's the red crown, Lower Egypt, the white crown associated with Upper Egypt, and this is known as the war crown. Some gods, Seti the First and Ramses the Second also have been known to wear that in battle, it says. A trip to Giza. I have no doubt that we will not find the tomb of Osiris near the pyramids. Having been around for a mere 4,600 years, they are not nearly old enough. Still, one can hardly visit Cairo without taking the tram out to the Giza Plateau to survey these most magnificent of all monuments. And this is talking about a funeral that pharaohs would have. It's a recreation of a funeral procession. At the front would have been mourners, while behind, oxen would have pulled the sledge bearing the king's gilded sarcophagus. A coffin. What a relief it would have been to the descendants of the oxen when Egyptians began to use the wheel 1,000 years later. Yeah, seriously. Here's the pyramids. This is around 800 AD. And this is what it looks like inside. I think that's really cool. That's all the chambers. Built of limestone with granite burial chamber and lower outer casing, erected 2490 BCE, 213 feet. This book is older, so it doesn't do the BCE yet. I got this, by the way. I think my mom got this for me when I was in like high school because I've been obsessed with Egypt my whole life. And so it's been about 20 years. So it's a little outdated, but I think most of this information is still correct. So here's the Sphinx. And then here's the Pyramid of Khafra. That's what it looked like. It was made in 2520 BCE, 471 feet, limestone with granite, burial chamber, and fine white drill limestone gutter casing. I don't really know what that means, but the Great Pyramid of Khufu, which these were, of course, tombs. Here's a lot more chambers, built of limestone with granite, fine white drill limestone outer casing. It was made in 2550 BCE, and it's 481 feet. So this is just saying that they used to use fire and vinegar and gunpowder to blast into the pyramids. And then it says today gentler methods are used. Well, I would freaking hope so. This is like their whaling. They used to do like whaling. Saqqara and Memphis. So these are mummified bulls. Here's a mummified baboon and a cat and an ibis. So the evolution of the step pyramid is over here. We've actually talked about this with a mastaba tomb. And then they kind of built walls around it and built it up a little more. And then they just kept building and kind of saw that it was like pointing towards the heavens. So they made it into a step pyramid. Small sample of mummy cloth. Oh, that's just like cheesecloth that they like colored, but still. This says mummies have been used for strange things. When American writer Mark Twain visited Egypt, he wrote that they were even used for fuel for the steamboat. So I guess they were like looking, like digging, and they found some mummy's cloth and a couple pieces of broken pottery. In the step pyramid, a statue of King Zoser was found completely walled up, except for a small slit at the eye level, so the king could gaze out on eternity. Weird. It's cool though. Beni Hassan and Amarna. So this is like model fisherman that was found in a tomb. And it's just saying that things in tombs can describe just everyday lives of Egyptians. The tomb of Beni Hassan. Pharaoh was thought to live with the gods of the stars and the sun when he died. By the time of the Middle Kingdom, nobles also underwent the process of mummification so they could live forever too. So there's a city called Amarna. It was also known as Akhetaten and was built by the heretic pharaoh Akhenaten to be Egypt's new capital, and he banned the worship of the old gods in favor of a single god, Aten. After his death, I guess the city was razed to the ground by his successors, and his name was chiseled out of history. Jeez. This is Nefertiti. It's very familiar, I'm sure, to a lot of people. And this is the Rosetta Stone. This, of course, allowed us to translate hieroglyphics. Here's some of the letters. I was thinking about doing a lesson because it's very complicated, but I could learn a few basic words and symbols. Here's Abydos. Here's a little map of the Temple of Seti I. Apparently, this is the most sacred site in all of Egypt, the center of Osiris worship. And it's the Temple of Seti I, who is the father of Ramses II. So Seti I carved a king's list into the walls of his temple. And that's what it looks like. So, looks like it also includes King Jer. And these are some of his bracelets that were found on his body. This is a recreation of temple worship. And this looks like tools, plumb line to mark out the excavation area. We still use those. Here's a trowel, pegs to rope the string off with. We do use this. I think I used it when I was learning archaeology. Brushes, string to make kind of like the square area. A camera, very important. Flashlight, large brush for like sweeping away the large amounts of sand, and a tape measure for measuring the site and probably drawing levels and the profiles of the excavation like pit. This is kind of like ancient Egyptian checkers. It's called senet. Talking about how they were like playing on their voyage. They're going to the Valley of the Kings, which is what this is. It's where Queen Hatshepsut's kind of tomb is in this temple. So this is funny. I've seen this many times. It's like a satirical papyrus. Animals playing this game, actually, which is hilarious. Here are the rules. Oh, and then you can actually play. It has like the pieces. That's cool. So you could actually play if you wanted to. It's funny. So this is talking about Egyptian voyages and how they would trade, but they really never wanted to leave Egypt because they thought it was like the best land. So here they're carrying trees in these wicker baskets. So I'm going to stop there, and then I'm going to finish this book in the next video. And we can find out. I don't think you really find out what happens because she is never heard from again, I guess. So. But I hope you enjoyed this video. And stay tuned for the next one while we're finished this book on Egyptology. So I hope you got to relax, and I also hope you have a great night or day. And I will see you in the next video.